We're good?
Yeah, it just got.
Okay, so it looks like we just got a quorum, so, yeah. All right, so welcome to today's TPB meeting, Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. All right, first thing up is the approval of the TPB agenda for today. Maybe I'd like to make a motion to approve today's agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All right, all opposed? Great. All right, next, the approval of the TPB minute meetings from November 18th, 2025. Everybody a chance to review those?
So approved.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, next, Director Chad.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members of the Transportation Policy Body. Appreciate your quorum today. We have after this meeting, we have a network event for the board members. Kim and staff are organizing all those. We have February meeting is the next meeting. Just to keep you informed that every year there's an elections and 2-year terms are chair, both TPB and TAC chair. So just to update you those. So that's the first item. And any questions, we have Evan here. Evan is our WAMPO attorney that helps us keep us on track and clarify things for us. So he's always here to assist us if any questions come up. So that's all the item on that. And then second item we have is regional connections presentations. Marky is not in today, but I can fill in for Marky. Marky had been working, scheduling time with each jurisdictions on presenting, what are all the updates in the past 4 or 5 years. Last time we had presentation from jurisdictions. So the schedule in 2025 is updated in the handouts. And there's also a link of YouTube's what occurred in the past. And that serves an example for rest of the jurisdictions to present in the future in 2026. So Marky will reach out to you on, when your time allows to make presentation. Just a little background. My mentor when I first started was Council Member Troy Tabor. So he was the one, and through my discussions with him, he has mentioned that how do we make our body more united? How do we make our jurisdictions more united? How do we make our region? So that was a discussion that came up, and then we thought, okay, how do we make each other know more better? How do we invite these presentations from jurisdictions? How do we make these regional connection concepts and the updates of growth and all? So I just want to provide the background why this was occurred. And then again, Marky will reach out to you. So that's all on that. Happy to elaborate if anything. And the next item we have is Safe Roads to School, and Kim is ready.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy holidays. I just wanted to provide you a brief update on Safe Routes to Schools. Everything is going extremely well. We've been extremely busy out visiting all the school campuses. And just to, again, show you the map, we have this interactive map on our website. So if you want to be able to actually go in and see which schools are participating, we do still have the 54 participating schools across our WAMPO region, including both public and private schools. So thank you so much. Your help in getting these schools on board was instrumental for sure. So really appreciate that. Just to give you a recap on this fall, I think at the last meeting, we actually, the consultants presented some of the results, but just to give you an update, we did the parent caregiver survey where we asked all sorts of questions about, do they allow their kiddos to walk or ride? If not, why? What are barriers? What can we learn from them? So that we received tremendous response rate back from that. We had the student travel tallies, which of course, tracked each student in their classroom, how they got to school that day and how they were planning to get home. So we have that data. We were out at the fall events in many of your communities, engaging the residents and asking them, if they knew of any locations that might need some safety improvements. And then, of course, we just have wrapped up the walk audits at the schools where we were out making observations on the ground about the site circulation and how everything works and what improvements might make it to the recommendations. So that's what we have just wrapped up. All of this data now is being compiled into school-specific existing conditions reports. So right now, the consultants and staff are compiling all of this information. They're developing these reports for each individual school and then an overall district report as well. So once those reports are ready, which should be here by the end of January, hopefully, we will be sharing those out with you and with your school administrators and engineers so that we can then work on those recommendations that will go into the final SRTS plan. So the reports will include all of that data, site circulation maps about how the vehicles and students move around the school. Also, we're looking at neighborhood plans, community plans, anything that might overlap that needs to be taken into consideration, and roadway networks. So the next steps, we're working on getting those condition reports. As soon as we have those, we will start scheduling meetings with the school and with any of you from the jurisdictions that are interested in attending those meetings, where we can work through that conditions report and then look at the recommendations to include in that final plan. So March through the end of 2026, we'll be really finalizing all of those full Safe Routes to Schools plans. And of course, in the spring, we'll be starting with getting the next round of schools involved. So just wanted to give you a heads up if you have any schools in your community that were not participating in this first round. We would definitely love to start thinking about those next schools so that we can get even more involved. So several people in the schools have started asking, well, this is excellent to have the Safe Routes to Schools plans. What does this mean for funding of those said improvements and recommendations? So just to cover what the recommendations in the final plans will include, they will include infrastructure improvements, potential programming that the school may do to support it, such as safe biking to school, those kind of programs, and then policies as well that might help support a more active commute. These plans will be grant ready. So we know schools are super busy. And so in order to help them apply for a variety of the different funding opportunities, this plan will pretty much help them succeed with that application, hopefully. So some of the types of funding opportunities that we have already are looking at, our consultants will be developing lists that actually will go into the plan. But at this point, there's transportation alternatives funding, local, state, and federal specific funding opportunities that become available. School districts obviously have budgets, so some of these improvements we've already seen. School districts already make these improvements, which is excellent. And then, of course, there's private and public foundations and donors. So this plan will hopefully set the schools up for success in reaching out and requesting some funding. So Chad, did you have anything you wanted to chime in on Safe Routes to Schools before we turn it over to Laura?
Let Laura speak.
Okay.
Thank you, Kim.
Laura has been a tremendous help. Laura is an intern in our office, and she has jumped right in, and she has been helping with many of the walk audits and collecting all that student travel tally data, which it was a mess. There was a lot of data there coming from each classroom. So, Laura.
Thank you. Again, I'm Laura Van Berklio, intern at WAMPO. Before I did this, I've spent almost 10 years at the Wichita School District. I know you can't tell, but I was really excited to help with Safe Routes to School because I've always been passionate about schools, but I love the data side that I got to help out with this. And so just giving a teacher perspective throughout this program, I think has been really helpful to everyone. Teaching, we see almost 175 arrivals and dismissals every year. And every single day we see safety concerns, whether it's people not using crosswalks, whether there is one or isn't. Every single day there are safety concerns from students and families. So we were really excited to help implement new things. And there are tons of things that we have ideas for that are being put in these plans. Last year at the school that I worked at, we had a student get hit by a car on a busy road. And so I'm really passionate about doing this because it just hits close to home. I was really intrigued with all the data that is being put into this. So the travel tallies I was really excited about, but on the teacher perspective, the parent surveys that were sent in, I was thinking, you know, they tell us how kids are getting to school, any concerns that parents have, and changes that they would like to see. And from a teacher's perspective, I was thinking how great this data would be for schools because they're always looking for ways to bond with families. So they can use this survey to bond with families, build safe plans, and even just bonding in general with the families, I think would be really helpful for the schools. This data also replaces guesswork. So teachers get informal observations and they get complaints and things like that. But with this data, they get real travel data. They get clear justification for safety requests and a lot of resources for safety gear. And the plans that are in here are very, very detailed, which as a teacher, I would not know how to make a safety plan, even the beginning of it. So I know a lot of teachers are really helpful and excited about the things that they are doing. One thing that I really like about Safe Routes to School is that they really want the input from teachers, administration, and parents. It would not work without them because, like I said, they are the ones who see this every single day. So they've been a big help with making these plans. Teachers often know what's best for their students, but they're not transportation engineers. They're not safety planners. They're teachers. So they are so busy teaching students that I know that they're very helpful, or they're very thankful that this is being able to be done for them. And with their input, we are able to make their ideas into engineered solutions. So I just wanted to say from the teacher aspect that everyone's really appreciative and glad that we're all working together to make these plans.
Thank you. So any questions on Safe Routes to Schools? I will say at the next meeting, we will have a sample of that existing conditions report. Chad.
Okay, thank you, Kim and Laura. Appreciate it. And I just want to thank our board members because it all started in 2023 when board members said, let us do this project and identify funding. And then also board members help and, connect with communities and also school districts. Because one of the unique projects where it is not always identify problems and solve, but also education and awareness to users of, both those who are walking, both who are driving, both sides. So keep up good work, Kim. Appreciate you.
And like I said, appreciate all of you for responding to my requests for help to reach out to schools and to get them engaged. So thank you. Okay.
Item on behavioral safety.
Yes, very excited about this next item. Here. To share with you. So, as you're aware, WAMPO, along with all of you, local, state, federal partners, have prioritized safety and similarly have adopted the safe system approach. So I think we have shared that with you several times. And it has the 5 areas, of course, that we are working on in order to prevent serious injuries and fatalities on our roadways. Today, though, I would like to focus in on the safer people category. This really is looking at promoting responsible behavior through education, enforcement, and by making it easier for people to make safe choices. So we often hear that, the engineers or the mayors or councils get blamed when there's fatalities or crashes. And we know that it takes everyone, all roadway users, in order to have a safe roadway system. So this is really looking at those behavioral aspects, the messaging, the activities and content that we can do to hopefully help our jurisdictions engage more people, have more discussions about what does transportation safety mean to them and how can they help us spread these safety messages and get people to adopt more safe behaviors when they are driving, walking, or riding their bikes. So as you know, over the last few years, we've been leaning into this work. We've been doing research to find out what are other communities across the United States and the world doing in this area. And we have been collecting those behavioral strategies. So we have a lot of information. And now we are requesting your assistance and your expertise to help us develop this toolkit of behavioral safety resources then that can be used by jurisdictions and by us and partners in order to hopefully make some good progress in this area. We expect this to be about a 6 to 7 month process. And so we will be, if you are interested in having any of your staff assist with this advisory committee to develop this toolkit, please let myself or Chad know. We'll also be reaching out to all of you just to see if you have somebody that you think would like to be involved in this. So Chad, I know this is your dream and your vision. So if you'd like to chime in.
Thank you, Kim. From decades and decades, we had been pouring millions of dollars in safety improvements on roadways, and we never tried what can we do in education and awareness and behavioral side of campaign and strategy. So we never tried those. So Kim is also passionate about how can we make it safer. So we had a discussion in the staff level, and then we thought we try something with the help of you all, like what are the ideas we all come together. And one example is develop a toolkit. For example, there are communities who are passionate about spreading this awareness and talking in their community centers about, we have statistics on how these, fatalities and serious injuries are occurring, what the trends are. And then we have YouTubes of how some of these families were impacted. So Kim has gathered and compiled all those information. And then those are the tools that can help to spread this awareness. And we're still developing, we're in the initial stages, but we'll be working with you. And Kim especially will be working with each jurisdiction, finding what are the best ways for us to move forward. And then in a couple of years, we'll develop some sort of plan where committees can, give us some ideas and toolkits. So that's just a start, but we're happy to, seek your input and incorporate. And Kim is there, and we both will talk to you.
Yes, we definitely want this toolkit of resources to be applicable for you, to be usable for you. We know you all have passionate residents who want to help make our roadways safer. So hopefully we will come up with I know we have some really good strategies and ideas that we can put together and hopefully help you engage more of those residents to make it safer for all.
Thanks so much, Kim. And Kim also has organized, Mark is not in today, Marky, Kim, Laura. Although Laura is new as intern, her teaching experience is so good in communications. Mm-hmm. She helps us understand what communications is. So all of them and I want to thank both GFT as well as JEO. So let us recognize, this Brett Letkowski and there is Brad Shores there. They have sponsored all these, boxes of Nifty Nuts as well as goodies and food, and they're all there. Kim is a leader in all this. So after this, you have a network event. So I just want to recognize GFT and JEO. Thank you so much, and Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, and thank you for all the food and all the snacks, and don't leave early. Got the food out there. So also, it's very appreciative of WAMPO and staff for safety, for looking after safety, whether it's safe routes to schools or the behavioral safety. It's, I hear all the time from people as far as different problems that they see in our areas that we always try to go after and make things better. So I'm sure everybody else does too. So it'd be great to see what this final report looks like.
I'd like to just add, one of the things, and I rarely watch TV, so if I'm off mark here, just tell me. But used to be you'd see public service announcements on television about different things, and this would be a great opportunity to do some of that. I can't tell you how many times I see people. We don't have a lot of sidewalks in Bel Air. We're adding them as we can, but it takes a while. But I can't tell you how many people I see walking on the wrong side of the road. They're supposed to walk opposing traffic, but there's about half the time they don't do that. They walk with the traffic, and that's really dangerous. Our police are good about it. If they see it, they'll stop them and they'll talk to them. They'll even give them safety vests and different equipment so that they can walk safer. But this is a good thing. We need to have this because I don't know if we just didn't learn it when we were kids or we forgot it. I don't know which, but either way, it's always good to reinforce these things.
Exactly. So hopefully we'll make some really good content that'll be applicable for your jurisdictions. Thank you.
So you said it'd be on YouTube? Right?
Yes.
I hear all the time people tell me or kids, hey, I saw you on YouTube. So it's they're playing a game or something and an ad will pop up on YouTube and they see it. So I think it's a good avenue. All right, any other comments? All right, we will move on to item D, the consent agenda. We have 2 items. Peter, would you like to talk about it? The first one is the 2026 TPB and TAC meeting dates, which are in your agenda on page 12. So just a reminder, there is no meeting in January. And the second item is the Regional Active Transportation Plan Consultant Contract.
Just a quick refresher. The contract is with RDG Planning and Design for development of a regional active transportation plan. It's consistent with WAMPO's approved 2025 and 2026 Unified Planning Work Program. Plan is it will succeed the WAMPO Regional Pathway System Plan, last updated in 2011. It'll look at and assess and catalog existing active transportation infrastructure, identify gaps in the non-motorized travel network, and highlight potential catalyst projects with a focus on regional connections. The RDGs to perform these services described in the contract during the period of December 9 to December 31 of 2026 for an amount not to exceed $1,999,925. Your action options are on the screen before you. Before moving to a motion, is there any discussion?
Yes, this regional active transportation plan, I did meet with Peter and Chad a little bit before this meeting about this. Because when I looked at this contract and the scope of the work, it looked like it was basically calling in all of our comprehensive plans and those of us that have walk-bike plans together and making them a more of a regional document, which is a good thing to do, but I just didn't see that it was a $200,000 project. And we talked about some other options, and they proposed that maybe staff could do this, but it would just take them longer, maybe 2 or 3 years, and that there wasn't any urgency to get this done. So I'm kind of okay with that. If that's the desire of the group here, but it was certainly it just seemed odd to me that we would spend $200,000 to basically call together our comprehensive plans and make them more unified. So anyway, that was my thought on it.
Thank you, Mayor Benaj.
Is there any more discussion or Chad, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I think we thank you, Mayor, for bringing for finding various ways of accomplishing the task of completing this active transportation plan, integrating regional connections of individual. How can there be connectivity of in general multimodal system? How can we make our region multimodal system more connected? And Mayor has a good point on there are many ways to do it and think more on spending this. We have both options. However you decide and however you guide us, we are happy to serve. Staff is ready to serve you the best possible, and the outcome of this plan also, we are diligent and we're driven to make it, either way we can accomplish this. If you're a mayor, we like mayor's insights. Mayor's insight not spend taxpayer dollars wisely and carefully. We understood that. So as board, your recommendation, Peter and I and staff will follow your recommendation, because many other projects, there are certain projects where it is critical that we have consulting firm like ITS project and household travel service project. Those are important and it's not possible to do by travel. But this is one of those where either way we can accomplish. So your advice is valuable to us, and then we are happy to incorporate your advice and follow accordingly.
You also mentioned you'd have to hire another person for a couple of years, right? A temporary person.
Yeah, a temporary staff, because this was already budgeted in UPWP, we could utilize some of that to hire temporary staff for a couple of years. Of course, existing staff is also capable and have resources to do this as well. So yes, Mayor, thank you for reminding.
All right, any other discussion?
I suppose to just kind of summarize the options, continue with the contract as presented, or if the option is to not continue with this contract, possibly pursue over a longer time frame, ideally with using less resources or less spending and having staff do that to kind of illustrate the difference. So the contract would be over the course of a year. Looking at staff, we haven't put out its exact timeline, but probably somewhere between 2 and 3 years, but do that hopefully more efficiently with less resources.
And it's currently budgeted already for 200,000. Okay.
So just to make sure I understand this properly, $200,000 deal. If we choose not to do it, are you suggesting you're going to have to add an employee or two to do it anyway in-house? Or can you do it with the current staff?
We can do with current staff as well, because that budget is already available. It is already there in the UPWP. We could utilize that to have additional assistance to make it more robust, and then also have a new temporary staff assist in various other activities. We're pretty busy in the next few years on various tasks, so that is helpful in both ways. I believe so. Yeah.
They'd have to hire, another.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
You're going to have to hire someone.
Yes.
Hire, yes, Mayor.
You're still spending money, but maybe it's not 2,000.
Correct. That is exactly correct. Correct, Mayor. Yes, correct. And then let me also request Evan to chime in on this. Would you have any comments, Evan, on this process?
Well, my understanding is where we're at in the process now is we've issued the request already, and they've responded, and we've picked a firm, and now we're at that point. So one of the questions that WAMPO posed to me is, do we have any legal obligation to this firm we've already picked? And I've read through the request for production, and I don't think so. Until this body formalizes an agreement with them, we can walk away from it without any legal obligation from our part.
Dirk?
Will the timeframe have any effect on the overall plan by extending the timeframe of the actual work here?
Overall time frame. Sorry, Mayor. Overall time frame is we are in good shape on time frame here. Ideally, accomplishing by 2029 is what is necessary for us, because the next plan after 2025 June that you have adopted and helped us adopt is due in May 2030. And when we update the new plan every 5 years, all infrastructure conditions of multimodal system needs to be updated. And then not only just the infrastructure conditions, but also users of the system as well. So both of those are reflected in the plan. So we are in good shape with the timeline. Thank you.
So it looks like our options either to, approve the consent agenda as presented, or we can approve, just the first item and not approve the second item. What would the body like to do? Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the first item on the consent agenda and not approve the second item on the consent agenda.
So a motion to approve the first item and not approve the second item, which is the Regional Active Transportation Plan contract. Is there any discussion?
Going to have the second item stand on its own for a vote. So what you suggested. Pull it out of the consent agenda.
Yeah, correct. So we'll have to pull the second one out. So if you want to make that motion.
All right, I'll make a motion to pull the second item in the consent agenda out of this consent agenda for separate vote.
So a motion is second to pull the second item out of the agenda, consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we can talk about the second item. Is there a discussion on it? Would anybody like to make a motion to do something with it? Not approve it?
So I think we need to approve the consent agenda because you have one item on there we've not
Oh,
approved yet.
we have not. You
Yeah.
are correct.
So I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, which only includes item 1, the first item. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, got that out of the way. All right, do we need to make another motion? All right, so we will need another motion for the second item.
I'll make a motion to not approve the active transportation planning consulting contract as presented.
To a motion and a second to not approve the regional active transportation plan consultant contract as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. So I guess you'll get back with us on a plan, what you're gonna do for that. Okay. All right, thank you. Next is item 3, the public comment opportunity. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak on this, on anything in our agenda or off agenda? You have 3 minutes. Nobody? All right. Moving on to our action item. We have one action item. First one is, well, the only one is the Title IV Program Manual and Limited English Proficiency LEP Plan Updates. I guess that's
Thank you, Chair.
how to say.
We have our Title VI Program Manual and Limited English Proficiency Plan updates. So WAMPO assures full compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Civil Rights Restoration Act of 1987, and the related statutes and regulations in all programs and activities. WAMPO maintains a Title VI Program Manual to document our compliance with Title VI and ensure non-discrimination. So Title VI requires that no person in the United States of America shall, on the grounds of race, color, national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be otherwise subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. The Civil Rights Restoration Act of 1987 expands this requirement to include all programs and activities offered by any agency receiving federal funding, i.e. WAMPO. Federal Transit Administration Circular Title VI requirements and guidelines for Federal Transit Administration recipients outlines compliance procedures for recipients of FTA-administered program funds, also WAMPO. So recipients document compliance by submitting a Title VI program manual once every 3 years. So as a subrecipient, WAMPO demonstrates Title VI compliance through the Kansas Department of Transportation. WAMPO's Title VI program manual was last updated in 2022. The components include a notice to the public, complaint procedures, complaint form, a list of Title VI investigation, complaints and lawsuits, a public participation plan, language assistance plan, a demographic profile of the metropolitan area, and a description or analysis of how Title VI responsibilities are considered during the planning process. Compliance with Title VI includes ensuring the accessibility of programs and services for individuals not proficient in the English language. WAMPO, to this end, maintains a limited English proficiency plan that guides the provision of meaningful access to the transportation planning process for people with a limited ability to communicate in English. The FTA circular outlines 4 factors that should be analyzed to determine the level and extent of language assistance. 1, the number or proportions of LEP or limited English proficiency persons eligible to be served or likely to be encountered, the frequency of contact with such individuals, the nature and importance of programs, activities, and services provided, and the resources available for LEP outreach and associated costs. The 4-factor analysis is included in both Title VI Program Manual and LEP Plan. Individuals with limited English proficiency are estimated at 5.93% of the population age 5 or older per the U.S. Census Bureau. The FTA circular also includes a safe harbor stipulation indicating that a plan for the provision of written translations is considered strong evidence of Title VI. So obligations under this safe harbor stipulation includes providing written translations of vital documents for each eligible LEP language group in the region that is at least 5% of the overall population or 1,000 persons, whichever is less. 2 language categories meet this. We have Spanish speakers and our Vietnamese speakers. That meet the safe harbor stipulation. All WAMPO vital Title VI documents are translated into Spanish and Vietnamese for this reason. And WAMPO may produce translations of other documents when possible and reasonable based on the requests and needs of the public. LEP plan outlines the steps WAMPO will take to provide language assistance. It was updated with the latest American Community Survey data from the census, includes a demographic profile of the WAMPO region, the updated LEP or limited English proficiency 4-factor analysis, revised language to ensure alignment with updated federal guidance, updated language assistance procedures, specifically for staff and translation services providers and cost estimates, and importantly, the updated Title VI and LEP plan have both been reviewed by KDOT, FHWA, FTA, and WAMPO's legal counsel. So we should be in a very good position with this document. Which brings us to our action options to either approve the Title VI program and manual limited English proficiency plan as presented, not approve, or approve with specific changes. The TAC recommendation was to approve the Title VI program manual and LEP plan as presented.
Are there any questions? Not, would somebody like to make a motion
I
to?
do have a question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
No worries. And I know you probably can't answer this, but I just want to throw it out there. Okay. I understand this is required under Title VI of the 1964 law, and the Title VI then drives administrative law to define how you implement that law. What my question is, and I don't know if even our attorney would necessarily have the answer to this, is this requirement for these additional languages, proficiencies, driven by administrative law, or is it written in the statutory law? And the reason is because President Trump has made English the official language of the nation. And so while we probably don't have any choice but to go on and improve this now, maybe in the future this is not a requirement. And that's just a question. I don't know. I mean, nobody knows that crystal ball, right? So
I'm worried to say something incorrect. I guess I'll just go back. With all of these plans, we had them reviewed by FHWA, KDOT, and legal counsel to make it sure that it was compliant. A lot of the nuance comes from that this was a law, or Title VI is a law passed by Congress, and it still has ramifications for how we do this. I wish I had a more satisfying answer for you, though.
I don't expect you to necessarily know the answer to this, because I don't see that we have any choice but to pass this. Okay. I think that's, everybody's done their research. They've done, and that's where it is today. I just curious as to what the future might bring on this, but I don't necessarily know anybody that would have that answer. So just want to throw it out there.
Yes, that's correct. There's a FTA circular that includes the safe harbor stipulation indicating that a plan for the provision of written translation is considered strong evidence of Title VI compliance. And I think that that's correct. A lot of this, I'm so sorry, I'm filling in for Marky's Shoes, who really took the lead on this. I updated some of the data, but the FTA circular that a lot of this information is based on is the guidance we were told to follow, and it includes a lot of these different provisions and steps that we took to make this. As you described, Mayor Benaj, WAMPO is required to have this kind of planning in place at this time.
It's all at least administrative law, but I just didn't know if it was statutory. But we probably won't get the answer to that, so don't sweat it.
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Somebody like to make a motion to approve the Title VI program manual and limited English proficiency LEP plan as presented? We have a motion and a second to approve this. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, moving on to discussion and updates. The 2012 to 2025 annual bike and pedestrian data report. Peter.
Yes, so WAMPO, through the generous help of volunteers, has facilitated region-wide bicycle and pedestrian counts since 2012. Each year, the results of the count are detailed in our annual bicycle and pedestrian data report. Of the 40 locations planned for counting in 2025, at least one 2-hour count was completed at 38 locations. 2025 marks the 4th year that we have implemented mathematical methods to estimate the annual average daily traffic, or non-motorized annual average daily traffic at each location where the counts were performed. Converting multiple counts out of sight into one AADT estimate provides a single annual number for that location. So it allows for multiple raw counts, often 3 per location, to be combined into one estimate, reducing some of the underlying variability that you get in these counts. And it also facilitates simplified comparisons between each year because you just have one single number at that location or between different locations. Initially, upon review of the 2025 draft AADT estimates, it was noted that some of the non-motorized AADT estimates appeared higher than what may be reasonably anticipated. Some locations that didn't have very high counts had estimated AADT counts well over 1,000, and that's supposed to be an estimate of how many people go by that location in a day. So this prompted review of the methods used to estimate these AADT, and we found that some of the hourly and daily conversion factors were applied inconsistently. Some locations with no count data collected had been misinterpreted as a completed count with no non-motorized traffic observed. And there was limited documentation on how the estimation methods adapted from the National Bicycle and Pedestrian Documentation project were actually applied. As a result, we reviewed all raw count data and documented a clear interpretations of the methods from the National Bike Pedestrian Documentation Project. And these documented methods were applied consistently to the 2025 counts. And then we reviewed the last 15 years of counts and recalculated all the estimates for those AADT. The new estimates often skewed much lower than previously calculated values, and many locations did not have an AADT estimate for certain years related to insufficient data. So the procedure from the National Bike Pedestrian Documentation Project relies on development of an average hourly count for both weekday and weekends, requiring at least one raw weekday and weekend count for an estimate to be calculated for a location. Not quite all locations had that. So after significant review and recalculation, we revised the 2025 annual bicycle pedestrian report, and the top 5 locations with the highest estimated non-motorized AADT are shown here. We have, of course, Ark River Path at Keeper of the Plains at the top. It has been the top for several years. I believe in 2022, it switched places briefly with Douglas and Washington. We also recalculated the map, and this can be found online and in the report. And then we have all of the data for the past 14 or so years online in this interactive map. And then just to touch base, because we know we have those MyoVision cameras, so as a pilot test, we deployed 9 of these cameras across the region and completed full daytime or 14-hour counts in tandem with the 2025 count. Several cameras were placed at locations where manual counts were also conducted to verify the accuracy of the MyoVision counts, assess the practical limitations of equipment deployment, and compare against non-motorized AADT estimations. We made all these estimates. We wanted to check it against what the cameras were saying and what we were counting. So we ended up reviewing raw video from the cameras, about 18 hours of video, where both manual and automated counts were performed to assess the accuracy claimed by the manufacturer. The manufacturer, just like humans, not 100% accurate, but we wanted to make sure that the claims that they say on the tin were correct. Key takeaway, in all cases, the accuracy either met or exceeded the manufacturer's claim. Practical limitations, they do require some infrastructure deployment. So if you have one of these cameras, you need to have a utility pole or a signal pole, something to tie it to so it can be deployed. So there's a few locations you can't do. And then insofar as staff time and future deployments, it may be easier to spread out our counts over time, and that will help manage staff time a little better. Trying to get these all out during that same count week. We did it, but it does take a little bit of effort to make it happen. And this last one, the green bars are the 14-hour MyoVision counts, and the blue bar is the estimated AADT from the volunteer counts. I did not anticipate that these would match exactly. One, an AADT count for a full day is slightly different than what is a 14-hour count. But I was so relieved to see that our estimated amounts were reasonably close and not multiples of one another, as we saw with some of the earlier estimations. For the future, I would say we met our 3 criteria for using these cameras and verifying those accuracy. We could use these potentially to supplement or take over much of the counts if that's desired. We plan on meeting early next year with different count stakeholders and seeing how best to deploy these and really make use of them. Any questions for me on the counts?
Yeah, could you go back one slide, please? So what is the light blue?
I'm sorry, Chair.
The green, yeah, green, blue, and then a light blue. What is the light?
Oh, yes. So the AADT counts, the blue, that's a single number for a location. The darker green is the weekday count, and the light green is the weekend count. Ideally, if everything was done right, you would hope that the estimated AADT in the middle would be in between the two. It's not quite in many of these spots, but I put those kind of sandwiched because the AADT represents one number for, what you would expect on a given average day of the year, but that varies a bit. And the 14-hour counts are actual counts, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Peter? All right, thank you, appreciate it. So
Thank you.
I think Wichita, Sedgwick County, and Hayesville are the only ones with the counters. Is that correct?
That is correct. Insofar as working with WAMPO staff for deployments, are the 3 jurisdictions we have agreements with that we can either assist or they can use this equipment.
All right, sounds good. All right, next item is item B, the 2025 projects and accomplishments.
Yes, we just wanted to take a moment to celebrate all of the work that has been done through your decisions and your action making. So Marky has prepared kind of a slide that has not all, but many of the important decisions that were made in this past year, including, of course, our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. This is a huge undertaking. Of course, as Chad mentioned, it's a multi-year project. And so to have wrapped that up this year successfully with your support has been a big accomplishment that we're very proud of. And then, of course, you have your TIP amendments, all of those that have occurred, performance measures, the Regional Transit Implementation Plan, of course, one of my favorites, the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan Amendment. Appreciate that. Of course, the UPWP work and Regional Intelligent Transportation Systems. These are just a few of the decisions that you made that helped this region move forward and progress. So just wanted to give you a thank you for that. And in case you have slept and forgotten about our MTP 2050, which I know can't happen, that's impossible. Just wanted to just give you an update that we have the plan. We did a lot of public engagement. It was really good to engage the public in this process. And now we have this as a plan that we can move forward and use. So very excited about that. This is a map of the projects that are included in the MTP 2050. Of course, all of this can be found on our website where you can enjoy it more thoroughly. But just wanted to say thank you for everything and all the accomplishments that you've helped us achieve. Peter?
Thank you, Kim. Touch on the regional ITS architecture. When WAMPO had our federal certification done in 2023, this was one of the items they particularly mentioned to us that needed to be updated and addressed. Again, it was last updated in 2006. Ideally, it's supposed to be maintained with a full update every 5 years. Again, it ensures the deployment of regional intelligent transportation systems occurs in an organized and coordinated fashion. That's your goal. What you're seeing in the image there is actually all of the which-way cameras that are on there. You can also find this on candrive.com. If you're curious, they have a very comprehensive dashboard that you can see all this. And of course, that was updated and approved on. That update was approved on November 18th at the last meeting. And then we wanted to take a special moment to highlight the tip. So we have a short video here.
program collaboratively prioritizes and funds projects. It's where visions become reality, ensuring impactful and inclusive transportation projects for our communities. Following through on
Sorry. Video didn't quite play as I anticipated, but we wanted to highlight the tip. Now, this year, we do a tip cycle every 2 years. This was an off year, so we didn't have a new round of WAMPO suballocated projects that were set for awards, but a lot still happens. And I just want to give a clear motivation for the structure of why the tip is and what we do here. So this comes from the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1970 and stipulates that a highway construction project, those which have any amount of funding provided through the Federal Highway Administration or the Federal Transit Authority, is prohibited in any urban area of 50,000 or more population unless responsible public officials of such an area have been consulted and their views considered with respect to the corridor, the location, and the design of the project. U.S. Code 211, Title 23, Chapter 1, Section 135. And it motivates a lot of what we do for these amendments to have our local elected officials represented by TPP approve these changes that happen to federally funded transportation projects. And so, though this wasn't necessarily a funding cycle year that we normally go through, there's still changes in programs in this 4-year plan. Now, this is all planned or program funding. It's not actually being spent, but it's planned or set aside federal funding, and it has to be approved among many steps by this body if it's occurring in our region and it's from FHWA or FTA. So you can see here, I listed all the net change in federal funding by amendment that we've done in this past calendar year of 2025. And again, I'm not saying anything or showing anything new here that wasn't already in our staff reports. This can all be found there, but this is planned or programmed funding that may occur in our TIP in years 26, 27, 28 for the most part. And you can see here for Amendment 3, and you see a lot of highway projects, as you can see, US 54, a lot of these come from the National Highway Performance Program as that funding source, but it's in the TIP. And so if you want to get a pulse on a large planning document, where's this funding headed? It is there, and you can take a look at it. Amendment 4 added about $41 million in funding or planned funding. Amendment 5 had a net change of $2,358,000 in program funding. And you can see there again, there's a couple of red projects there. The TIP is a 4-year planned or program document. We'll get a bit more into when things go from planned to a bit more concrete or obligated. And then finally, we had Amendment 6, which had a net change of about $2.14 million. And when do we go from planned or programmed to obligated? And I go into this every so often with our bi-monthly TIP updates. And I was going to have Nick talk about these different definitions because it seems to get a bit confusing. I want to make sure we're all on the same footing.
Thank you, Peter. As a reminder about the difference between programmed and obligated funds. Programmed funds are those federal funds that the TIP says a project is planned to have based off of the awards that were made to it. In the case of suballocated funding, those that were recommended by the Project Selection Committee and then approved by the TAC and TPB, but then all federal funds still require approval by the TAC and TPB to get into the TIP. Obligated funds is a subsequent step after which the federal government is obligated to provide a certain amount of funding to the project, but that is not the point where the funds are actually received. Because funds are received as costs are incurred throughout the life of the project in an 80-20 split for most funding programs of 80% federal funding to 20% non-federal funding. And it is only after a project has obligated that, in the case of a construction project, the project may have bid letting to hire contractors to actually perform the project. And before a project is able to obligate, which is before it is able to let, before obligation, it needs to be in the State Transportation Improvement Program, which the TIP is included into by reference, meaning it has to be in the TIP, then in the STIP slightly after that, and then it can finally obligate and then let. And once a project has obligated, any further changes to the amount of federal funding on it for most funding programs, I believe there are different rules for some in the but outside the suballocated realm. Anyway, within the suballocated realm, any increase in the programmed funding has to happen before obligation. That covers the explanation of obligated funds. Peter?
So as Nick was describing, TPB approves the funding in the amendment. That's one step. You have your approval from local officials that this federal funding can be used for this project. But again, those are plans. Sometimes things change or plans move out farther in the horizon. Sometimes if our current tip is from FFY 2025 to 2028, what if you move into federal fiscal year 29? Just priorities change, circumstances go. But let's say your project was awarded. It's getting to that year where, it's in the tip. It says in FFY 2025, you're slated to receive $2 million or what have you, some number of federal funding. It's been approved. Now you need to get that money obligated. And once it's obligated, it's a much more like a guarantee that you can get those construction costs actually reimbursed on your project. And again, I talk about these for the WAMPO suballocated projects or those WAMPO awarded projects every year. And I always read them off in those bi-monthly tip updates, as you can see highlighted in the yellow down below. And again, this is all just from staff reports, but I thought I would take the time to talk about what an accomplishment it is to get these obligated. Doing this, you have to have so much already done and submitted to FHWA. It includes a ton of submission related to all sorts of things like right-of-way, your PS&E. All of it has to be taken care of, and making sure that that happens in the year it's supposed to is an accomplishment. In particular, for these projects, I'd like to make a very specific shout out to the Butler County project for really managing some unforeseen issues with right-of-way and making sure that project stays on track for the year that it was intended to be funded. If staff or something slips through from one year to the next, things can be handled on smaller amounts, but some of these larger projects, it's really critical that staff works hard to make it. So all of these obligations are accomplishments. And I'd like to take a bit more time just to look through them rather than what we just normally do on that little bi-monthly sheet where I just have it in a spreadsheet. And then for all of the TIP projects that do get obligated, we do release this annual listing of obligated projects. That'll come in January of next year once we have it reviewed, but that'll include all those other ones that aren't WAMPO awarded, all the different highway projects that actually secured their funding and moved through that obligation process. And then finally, we just want to talk about a couple of regional accomplishments that weren't necessarily directly under WAMPO. This is by no means a comprehensive list, but we wanted to shout out to the Wichita Bicycle Plan endorsed by the Wichita City Council on January 14th, the K254 Corridor Management Plan. Announcement of plan completion was shared with WAMPO in February this past year. The Wichita Transit Network redesign, final report was in March of 2025. Last month, we also reached out and just asked if anyone wanted us to share any images of projects that were under construction or nearing construction complete. So we received K15 improvements from Derby. See those images there. This is WAMPO staff at the Meridian Avenue reconstruction at the Ribbon Company in Valley Center. We received this from Sedgwick County, 143rd Street bridge replacement. The signal upgrades at 47th and Oliver, Sedgwick County. Ridge Road shoulder additions and scans from Sedgwick County, which kind of brings us to the end. Thank you for sitting through that with us. We just thought we were kind of excited to share and wanted to make sure that some of these things that go under the radar got their time in the light. Anyway.
Well, thank you, Peter, Nick, and can anybody repeat what Nick said? That's why we have WAMPO, right? That's very appreciative of WAMPO to know all that stuff. So so I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. That's a good point. And Nick keeps a good eyes on, I's and dots, and every dot, every line he reads, and definitions, he gets accurate, and he helps us all. And also, I want to take an opportunity to let you share this information with you. We just received from KDOT that there is some additional funding available for 2025 and 2026. There's some carryover funds from the previous years that was not completely obligated. There is a policy of limitation obligation, which means every year 84% was funded before. Now there is a, what was the term, Nick? The complete, is a term fully.
Up to now, they had what was called a limitation distribution. We had an apportionment of suballocated funds. However, the instruction based off our monthly reports that we got from KDOT was to limit it to approximately that limitation distribution, which was usually about 85%, not always 85%, but about 85%, in order to reduce the odds of an accidental over-programming. However, this resulted in accumulating carryover balances. Therefore, the new practice, and please, if anyone in the meeting from KDOT wants to correct me on any of this, feel free, is for them to report to us what is expected to be the full apportionment amount, 100%, meaning we are supposed to program the 100% instead of the 85%. And because our previously reported carryover numbers had been based off of the 85% rather than the 100%, there is not just the 15% for this year to program, but also 15% from prior years to add on top of that. So there's sort of a bulge at the beginning of this new way of doing things to take care of. Now, to be clear, our apportionments, suballocated funds are not increased by this. It just means that we are now using the whole thing and need to take appropriate action. So the project selection committee will be convened at some point and asked to make recommendations on this. And those recommendations will go to the TAC and then back to this body for final decisions on awards, possibly, but not necessarily at the same time as making funding decisions for the 2027 to 2030 TIP, which will be developed during 2026.
Thank you, Nick. And Mr. Chair, thank you for elaborating. And the two terms were, Mr. Chair, limitation distribution and full apportionment. Those were the two terms, and Nick keeps an eye on these terms. Prior, the policy was limitation distribution, which was 85% per year. Now, full apportionment is, 100%. So that's why there is a little bit carryover that staff like Peter and Nick are working with jurisdictions and project selection committee to, already existing TIP projects, the potential to have some additional funding for that. So we just want to share this because it's new. By next TAC and TPB, there'll be more information coming and we'll be sharing with you more. Mr. Chair, thank you.
All right, thank you, Chad, Peter, Nick. All right, next is the committee and partnership updates. So for the executive committee, the next one will be February 5th, 2026. Kansas Department of Transportation is Mike online. If not, we'll move on to the Wichita Metro KDOT. JB.
Thank you. On Monday, December 1st, KDOT began the I-135 US 54 interchange bridge construction project in Wichita. The work includes bridge replacement, deck rehabilitation, construction of a new ramp from southbound I-135 to eastbound US 54, along with redecking on northbound I-135 to westbound US 54. As the project moves forward, the inside lanes on I-135 from Lincoln Street to Douglas Avenue and on US 54 from Hillside to Topeka will be closed. Sorry, apologize. To support bridge construction, the ramp from northbound I-135 to westbound US 54 is scheduled to close on Monday, January 5th, 2026. Work is anticipated to continue through September 2027, conditions permitting. Is there any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
A lot of stuff. Any questions? All right, thank you. All right, next is the member jurisdiction updates. Do any members have any updates they would like to share? Nope. All right. We will move on to other business. Chad? No. So just the end of the year networking event right after this. As you leave. So please don't leave. Stick around. Next thing is adjournment. I'd like to adjourn today's meeting. Anybody? Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. All right. Thank you.